So I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, why has Simon and Isaac got this beautiful balloon here? And why are we enjoying this incredible celebration of a nice scone with a candle in it? Well, it's because we are at Psalm number 75, halfway through the Psalms. Only 75 more to go. Okay, that was good in theory. Having Isaac on my knee, but he burst a balloon, pulled my glasses off, and then just started to shout. So I thought it might be a wee bit distracting, so I've started again. But we're in Psalm 75, which is a psalm to the choirmaster according to Do Not Destroy. Okay, I can't wait to ask Asaph in heaven what that tune was. And of course, it is a psalm of Asaph. Psalm of Asaph, and it begins, we give thanks to you, O God. We give thanks, for your name is near. We recount your wondrous deeds. So, listen folks, it's obvious, it's always good to give God thanks. But we see a clue here of what to do when it feels that God is distant. If you feel God is distant, recount his wondrous deeds. Okay, recount his wondrous deeds. Like, all these images in the ancient world of these distant deities, but the God of Israel is close. How do you know he's close? Because he was close to our fathers and our forefathers, and he was close in the pillar of fire and the pillar of cloud. He was close right the way through our deliverance from Egypt. He's been close, and there's things that mean he's close. In recent times, there's things that mean he was close in the past, but his deeds show his closeness. And the more we recount his wondrous deeds, the more we are reminded of his nearness and the fact that he is Emmanuel, God with us. We should do that, okay? And then it goes on to say, at the set time that I appoint, I will judge with equity. God is not a random God. God is never a late God. He's right on time. And at the set time that he appoints, he will judge with equity. If you're suffering injustice in these days, if you're suffering what you would consider unfairness or struggle or difficulty, he'll not be late. At the right time, he's got to come and make all things right. And it says, it's really fascinating as we look at the next couple of verses, because in a sense, verses 2 and 3 are an encouragement to people who are worshippers of God. 4 and 5 are written to those that oppose God. As we've said in the past, God never changes. He's righteous in all his ways. He's righteous in his love. He's righteous in his judgment. He's righteous in all those ways, but what is different is the way that we approach him. So if we approach him seeking to please him, he's like a safe harbour in a storm for a yacht. If we approach him with wicked hearts, with a sense of not needing him, he's a completely different prospect. We will meet him in all his judgment, and that's what we see here. Like, it's showing us that God is over everything. And here's the encouragement. He's going to be right on time. And when the earth totters or shakes and all its inhabitants, it is him who will keep steady its pillars. At the moment the world is shaking. But yet we can be sure that the time will come when creation will be shaken, and God's going to remake the whole thing. But if this is not that time of shaking, we can be sure that God will actually keep steady its pillars. He's in control, okay? In control. Now that doesn't mean he likes everything that's happening now necessarily, but what it does mean is God is not sometimes sovereign. He's in control. Nothing is a surprise to him. Nothing has overcome him. And we can be sure of that. But then verses 4 and 5, a warning to the wicked. I say to the boastful, do not boast. To the wicked, do not lift up your horn. Now, lifting up your horn. The horn is a kind of is the sign of somebody's strength. You know, an animal's horn is their kind of primary weapon. So, lifting up your horn. The image is kind of, a lot of commentators use, is when you're trying to put the yoke on an animal, and it's lifted up its horn. It's not letting you put the yoke down and it's over its neck. It's lifted up its horn. Okay, so to the boastful, do not boast. To the wicked, do not lift up your horn. Do not lift up your horn on high, or speak with a haughty neck. Okay, this haughty neck, lifting up its horn, not allowing itself to be mastered, or not allowing itself to submit to the higher power of God. That's the warning. Okay, so good news for the person who fears God. God's going to come right on time, and he will keep the pillars of the world steady even when it feels like things are shaking. But to the boastful, don't boast. To the wicked, don't lift up your strength against me. Do not lift up your horn on high, or speak with a haughty neck. Now, what you'll have noticed there is that the word, the Hebrew word, okay, you won't have noticed that, but the Hebrew word for lift up has already been used twice, and it's going to be used 3 more times in the Psalm, so 5 times in all. Lift up. Because it says next, for not from the east or from the west, and not from the wilderness comes lifting up. Okay, lifting up, or promotion, or exaltation. It doesn't come from the east or from the west, but it's God who executes judgment, putting down one and lifting up another, putting down one and exalting another. So you've got all these wicked people who are trying to lift themselves up, or trying to make allegiances with other nations so that they're exalted. But we're learning here, it's not from the east or from the west that comes, but God alone, who puts down one and lifts up another. This is really a reminder of the sovereignty of God. God is in control of it all. There's nobody and nothing who is outside of the control of God. I love what Spurgeon says. He says, empires rise and fall at his bidding. A dungeon here, and there a throne his will assigns. Assyria yields to Babylon, Babylon to the Medes. Kings are but puppets in his hands. They serve his purpose when they arise and when they fall. Folks, an encouragement, you have a very powerful God. He is the one who will promote and demote, and nobody else. And then it says this, and we might like this verse very much, but just stick with it. Verse 8. For in the hand of the Lord there is a cup with foaming wine well mixed. In the hand of the Lord there is a cup, okay, with foaming wine well mixed. And he pours out from it. All the wicked of the earth shall drain it down to the dregs. You see, the image, folks, is that the people will be forced to drink a cup. Okay, they'll be forced to drink a cup. I mean, it's lovely in the Psalm 23 where talk about my cup overflows. That's a lovely thing. But here's another cup. It's the cup of judgment. The people who have promoted themselves will have to drink from. People who haven't allowed themselves to come under the will of the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords. Okay? And they will have to drink a cup. And that sounds really tough, doesn't it? Until you remember that in the New Testament that we have a Lord, that God, who is the executor of this judgment, actually comes in the person of Jesus. And he says to the disciples, can you drink the cup that I'm going to drink from? And he goes to Gethsemane and he says, if there's any way, let this cup pass from me. I mean, the beautiful thing is that, of course, anyone who has promoted themselves instead of allowing themselves to come under the yoke of the Lord should have to drink the cup of judgment. But because Jesus has come and drunk it on the cross, this cup of God's wrath, none of us have to drink from it if we will just submit to him. None of us. And that's the wonderful, beautiful New Testament truth, that there is a cup of judgment. There is a cup of judgment for all those who promote themselves and lift themselves up against God. And I've done it. I've lifted myself up against God. I've lived in a way that said, I want to be in charge. And I should have been given that cup to drink to its very dregs. But no, Jesus took that cup for me. He said, if there's any other way to save Simon and Gethsemane, let this cup pass from me. And then he decided, no, there's no other way. And he said, not my will, but thine be done. And he went and he drank it on the cross. It's a beautiful truth, isn't it, folks? And that's the psalmist. We actually know that Asaph, the psalmist, is also referred to as a seer or a prophet. So there's a prophetic element to all his songs, although of course there's a prophetic element to all the psalms, but you know what I mean. And it says in verse 9, but I will declare it forever. I will sing praises to the God of Jacob. If he had reason to sing praise, how much more do you and I, who know why we never have to drink that cup, because Jesus drank it for us. All the horns, remember the horn referring to might or strength, all the horns of the wicked I will cut off, but the horns of the righteous shall be lifted up. Folks, I just think as a halfway point in our Psalms, this is good stuff. He will promote all those who humble themselves. And all those who promote themselves, he will humble. But the beautiful truth is that the cup of judgment that all proud people should drink, Jesus Christ has drunk it. He's drunk it for us, for proud people like me. And if we would just humble ourselves, commit our lives to following Christ, we would never have to drink a drop. I pray that's an encouragement to you, and I pray that your cup overflows, the good cup overflows in his presence this day and in the days to come. God bless you, and happy 75th Psalm. Cheers.